It was December 4th, 2003.
I'm scared. I don't want you.
I'm gonna go try to get them to stop doing that.
A police officer walking through a park in Arlington, Virginia, was stopped by a concerned family. They claimed that someone nearby had been firing a flare gun. The officer heard it as well, and by following the noise, he soon found himself standing at the doorstep of 56-year-old James Yu. The man lived by himself in his side of the duplex and was viewed by neighbors as a recluse with strange behavior. On social media, he frequently posted claims that government agencies were defrauding him and went on long rants about how little he trusted the police or the US government. He believed that people, including his ex-wife, the FBI, and even his neighbors, were trying to kill him. Many of his posts were completely irrational, and so were many of his actions. In the months leading up, he had covered every window with garbage bags and aluminum foil, and had even wrapped the trees in his yawn with toilet paper. Although these behaviors were seen as harmless at the time, they hinted at the shocking events that were about to unfold. When police arrived at his home, Yu could be seen firing his flare gun again and again out of the window. And even though he was repeatedly told to stop,
Arlington County Police! Stop shooting the flares! Mr. Yu, can you hear me?
he refused to let up, launching a total of 41 flares over the course of just 25 minutes. What made it even more unsettling was the complete lack of any explanation. He wouldn't say a single word as all of this was unfolding. Unsure whether Yu was a real danger, officers grew increasingly desperate to get him out of his house for questioning, and so they called out to him for hours, starting off politely but becoming more insistent as the situation dragged on.
James, Arlington Police, come to the front door with your hands up. Do it now. We have your building surrounded. You're not leaving.
Growing frustrated by the lack of any response, officers began to worry that Yu might be planning something dangerous, so they eventually brought in a specialized vehicle to force open the front door and flood the home with gas, all in an effort to get Yu to come outside.
James, stay away from your front door. Stay away from your front door, James.
But in response, Yu started firing again, only this time it wasn't with a flare gun. Instead, he was now shooting an actual firearm. Thankfully, none of the rounds hit anyone. Still, with the danger escalating, officers were forced to pull back, regroup, and try to plan a safer way to take Yu into custody. But that plan never had a chance.
Hands up. Do it now. Not when you get hurt. Now.
Yeah.
In an instant, the house exploded in a massive blast, reducing the structure to nothing but rubble. Inside, Yu had stored 55 gallons of gasoline in his basement, waiting for this exact moment to ignite it with no warning and no explanation. Based on the recordings, some theorize that Yu had tried to lure police into his home before triggering the explosion, hoping to kill them along with his neighbors, since he was convinced they were all conspiring against him. Miraculously, when the smoke cleared, no civilians or officers were hurt, and the only thing left in the wreckage was what remained of a single body. For a brief time, however, this wasn't the end of James Yu's story. Before the body was officially identified, reports began spreading across social media, claiming Yu had survived the explosion. Comments started appearing on what appeared to be his YouTube channel, where he insisted the entire event was a cover-up and that he wasn't even inside the house during the standoff, which, in hindsight, is impossible to confirm, since we never see him or hear his voice during the incident. These posts quickly went viral, creating widespread confusion, which only intensified when it was confirmed that the body found in the ruins was in fact James Yu. In the end, however, it wasn't quite as mysterious as many people first believed. It turned out that the post showing those comments had failed to notice that the account wasn't actually used at all, but had a completely different username, likely created as nothing more than a hoax. Even so, to this day, there are still people who insist it was all part of a massive cover-up and that the body found in the rubble wasn't really you. But in reality, it appears this was simply the tragic outcome of a man consumed by paranoia and crushing loneliness, leading to what has become one of YouTube's darkest videos. It was a day of celebration for David Turpin and his wife, Louise, as they marked yet another wedding anniversary with their familiar vow renewal ceremony in Las Vegas. What made the occasion even more special was the presence of all 13 of their children gathered to witness it together. Their original wedding had taken place back in 1985, when David was a 23-year-old man and Louise was only a 16-year-old child. And yet, after all this time, their relationship still seemed to be thriving, as they continued this vow renewal tradition nearly every year, with past ceremonies clearly visible across multiple videos posted to YouTube. Beyond their love for one another, the videos also appeared to show the affection they shared with their children, presenting the family to the world as one close-knit unit known as the Turpin family. And those early uploads were only the beginning of what they would upload to YouTube. After these family clips went online, one of the daughters seen in the videos started posting her own videos to YouTube. She created a secret YouTube channel that no one else knew about. That daughter was 17-year-old Jordan Turpin. On this private page, Jordan uploaded videos of herself singing songs she had written herself.
It's over, it's over, it's over.
She filmed them in her bedroom and would sometimes reveal small glimpses of what their home looked like. On the surface, the videos seemed entirely ordinary, exactly what you'd expect from a 17-year-old girl, with her uploads eventually stopping altogether after yet another singing video.
What now do I do? Look at me, here I am.
Throughout the time her channel was active, there were no obvious red flags that suggested anything was wrong behind the scenes. Aside from a few brief moments, Jordan rarely addressed the camera or talked about her personal life, using the platform mostly to share her music, making it nearly impossible to realize that something deeply horrifying was taking place inside the Turpin home, something that had been happening unnoticed for years and likely would have gone on for many more if not for Jordan stepping in. Just 1 week after her final video went live, a frantic 911 call would be made by the young woman herself.
I live in a family of 15, okay, and we have abusing parents. Did you hear that?
Okay, how did they abuse you?
They hit us, they like to throw us across the room. They pull our hair, they yank out our hair. I have my two little sisters right now are chained up.
This audio captures Jordan's frantic call to the authorities as she tried to explain that her parents had been abusing not just her, but all of her 12 siblings as well. Because of the severity of what she was reporting, an officer was immediately dispatched to locate Jordan, who was waiting in a nearby neighborhood. Their entire exchange would later be preserved on the officer's body camera.
What's going on?
Okay. I just ran away from home.
Okay.
And I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
My two little sisters right now are chained up.
They're chained up?
Yes,
Where are they chained up at?
on their bed. Now, mother didn't chain them up just to be mean. They're chained up because they stole mother's food. But they stole it because they were hungry.
Jordan revealed to the officer that 2 of her siblings were currently chained to their beds for trying to take some of their mother's food. Even more disturbing was her admission that her nervous and sometimes awkward way of speaking came from never having any real interaction with anyone outside her own family.
I'm sorry if I talk too much. Okay. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so this is very hard for me to talk.
She went on to explain that getting help required her to physically run away from her own home since she was never permitted to go outside.
But the reason I called and the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done. I'm terrified.
At first, the officer seemed somewhat doubtful, even asking Jordan whether she was on any medication, a question that confused her entirely since she had never even heard the word before.
Do you take any medication?
What's medication?
Medication?
Yeah, what's medication?
Do you take pills? Do you take pills?
Oh, I don't think I've ever taken a pill before.
However, the officer quickly began to understand just how serious the situation was when Jordan presented him with actual evidence.
Do you have pictures of your sisters chained up?
Yes, but they're in here. Okay. I don't have proof of everything, but I have proof that my sisters are chained up. Look at that. See, those are the places that make it on them. And see how dirty she is? We're so filthy. We don't take baths. We don't.
How did your sisters get like this?
Okay.
Your parents chained them up?
Yes.
The situation was already horrific, but it was only the start of what would soon be revealed, as officers who entered the home that morning uncovered the full scale of the abuse taking place inside. When they stepped in, police were met with an overwhelming stench of human waste and decaying trash that filled nearly every room. They also located Jordan's 12 other siblings, including one who had been chained for weeks and 2 more who had only just been released. The children were dangerously malnourished and incredibly weak, and to the officer's shock, several of them were actually adults, with the oldest being 29 years old, though at first they were mistaken for children because they weighed only 89 pounds, the result of being allowed just a small amount of food once per day. Their bodies were covered in bruises from the constant beatings by their parents, and they were unimaginably filthy as well, since each child was allowed only a single shower, not daily, not weekly, but once a year. The abuse that took place in the Turpin house at the hands of Louise and David was nothing short of unthinkable, with perhaps the most unthinkable act being committed by Louise, who allegedly forced several of her children into prostitution with wealthy men, all in an attempt to generate additional income for the family, while the couple otherwise kept the children locked up inside the house for their entire lives, subjecting them to unimaginable abuse. Despite this, however, on social media they continued posting photos that frame them as a perfect, loving family, which brings me back to the collection of videos they had left on YouTube. You might be questioning how these children were able to attend those wedding ceremonies if they were truly never allowed to leave the house. The reality is that these clips are actually showing what were likely the only moments in these children's lives when they were ever taken outside their home. Once every year, they were brought to this ceremony not as any kind of reward or privilege, but simply to uphold the Turpin's image as a normal, happy family. This recorded footage literally captures some of the only moments of freedom these children had experienced in their entire lives up to that point. The full Turpin family case is an incredibly complex story that stretches far beyond what can be covered here. But in the end, both parents were taken to trial where they were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives behind bars. While this devastating case has left permanent scars on all 13 children, there was at least some comfort in believing that their suffering had finally come to an end. Or so it seemed.
A foster family in Paris has been accused of abusing several foster children, including some of the Turpin siblings.
In what stands as one of the most heartbreaking twists possible in a case like this, it was recently revealed that the foster family who took in 5 of the Turpin children is now accused of abusing those very same kids. The foster parents, Marcelino Olguin and Rosa Olguin, along with their daughter Linny, are facing more than a dozen criminal charges, including child cruelty, witness intimidation, and false imprisonment. Making the situation even more disturbing, the father, Marcelino, was also charged with committing lewd acts on a minor, as authorities allege he sexually abused 2 of the children. This is an absolutely heartbreaking development in what was already an extremely disturbing case. The idea that these children could be abused all over again is among the most devastating things I have ever come across. Still, there is some light within the darkness, as several of the Turpin children have managed to build lives that are, thankfully, now free from abuse. Jordan herself has even become popular on TikTok and seems to be thriving with her new independence. So the ending isn't entirely tragic, but sadly, parts of it still are. I can only hope that the remaining children will finally be placed in a loving home, far away from the abuse that has followed them literally since the day they were born. It was a tense scene in the city of Culiacan, Mexico, as a team of officers surrounded a house with their weapons drawn. That tension was well-deserved, as the officers were about to make history by capturing one of the region's most notorious criminals, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo.
He is a leader of one of the world's most powerful drug operations. One U.S. city has named him public enemy #1.
Despite his father had been arrested back in 2014, Ovidio had remained free, continuing his father's legacy by taking on a major role within the cartel. But this day was supposed to be his last as a free man, as officers prepared to enter the house and take him into custody. The operation was reportedly organized by the Mexican government in an effort to weaken the cartel's control over the region. And for the officers involved in this risky mission, they were on track to become heroes if everything went according to plan.
Sal, Ovidio. Salga. Vente, tranquilo, señor. Tranquilo. Señora, los tres, tranquilo. Aquí, señor. Tranquilo. Listo. Anda aquí tus manos. ¿Traes armas?
And on that day, it seemed that it had, as Ovidio was arrested and the area was secured without a single shot being fired, marking what should have been a major victory for the Mexican government. That is, had the story ended there.
The city of Culiacan, Mexico, the historic homeland to the violent Sinaloa drug cartel, turned into a battle zone Thursday.
The city rapidly turned into a war zone as the cartel sent more than 700 armed members in retaliation for Ovidio's arrest, even though officers had actually convinced Ovidio to call off any retaliation, as seen at the end of this body cam footage. However, they ignored that order, and within hours, the regional military was completely overwhelmed. And with the city now in total chaos and countless deaths looming, the Mexican government made the shocking decision to release Ovidio Guzman. The choice was astonishing, but it immediately brought the fighting to a halt, and for a brief moment, everything seemed calm, though in the eyes of the cartel, things were far from settled. Which brings us back to this video. In it, several officers can be seen taking part in the operation, all of them led by a man named Eduardo Triana Sandoval. And while these officers likely believed their actions that day would be remembered as heroic, that decision instead made them targets. Just days after the failed arrest, Eduardo was tracked down and confronted by armed cartel members who opened fire in a storm of bullets as he sat inside his car. In total, 155 shots were fired at Eduardo, who never stood a chance. And the horrors shown in this video don't end there either. Even though Eduardo was the only officer officially confirmed dead, it has been widely rumored that since this footage was recorded, every officer seen in the clip has been killed, as they became the cartel's easiest targets for revenge, picked off one by one to send a message to the entire world. And watching back the clip, seeing how eerily calm Ovidio remains as he's being arrested, it's hard not to feel that he knew exactly what was about to unfold. And even though he was the one in handcuffs, it somehow feels as if the police were the ones who had stepped into his trap, turning the footage into yet another example of the unsettling darkness hidden deep within YouTube.